Welcome back, and we are flipping. Yes, flipping crazy, I know. World's fastest bumper car update. We're trying to find those elusive 2 to 3 inches to give us clearance, and we're going to try chopping the mounts by 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches at the front, and then we have Mr. Schneeberger's cunning plan. Involving wood. Yes, indeed. What about a wooden badger? Right, all the mounts are removed, only minor injuries sustained, and we're ready for re-drilling. You know me, I don't do things by halves, so we're going for a little bit more than 1 inch at the front. I think we can get away with it, so 35mm. But at the back, I think we're pushing our luck with 1 inch, so we're erring on the side of safety. Caution. And the right-hand edge one required a little bit of extra modification because it's a tight fit up against the engine itself. We'll tidy the others up later if we need to, if we're even going to use these, if they're thick enough gauge or not. We haven't really established that yet properly. Further modification on the right-hand side is a double spacer. That might be a little bit too much, but it's kind of what it looked like it needed. If you're in any doubt about the strength of the bolt itself, I might remind you that 2 of these that were thinner held the whole engine on the engine mount thing, frame. This thing. No, not the belly. For a quick and dirty test just by drilling a few holes, but of course we had to modify everything. I haven't cleaned up those back ones, but these front ones are actually kind of semi done properly, and the other front one was a real pain because there's this thing in the way. I think we've talked about that before. Don't know what it is. Looks like a tow bar. I know it's not a tow bar. Is it one of those kind of things designed to burst if the motor actually freezes in the cold to save the actual block? I don't know. Answers on a postcard. Anyway, 2 hours later, we're kind of ready to try again. First, we've got to flip that back over, haven't we? Yeah. Well, thank God it's lightweight. I can do it on my own, just about. Anyway, that's that done. Right side up, ready to drop the motor in again. 3rd time lucky, eh? But wait, he's only lowered these 1 inch. He needed to find 2, if not 3. Now, yes, this is where the wooden badger comes into play. Okay, we do have slack, so it is actually sitting on the mounts. Well, kind of. So it could, that needs to angle forward a bit more, which should drop everything a little bit. And you might notice there's a little bit of cut-offs that I've put at the back. I was a little optimistic with my inch even at the back, probably because I took the 35mm at the front. So that oil filter is right on the chassis. Little bit too close for comfort, I think. So we probably need to raise it up a little bit here at the rear end. I think that's the easiest aspect because the oil filter's closer to the rear end. The exhaust situation is exactly the same, so that's clearly for the chop. Just for experimental purposes, I'm going to be using these brand new brake pads that don't fit anything that I've got. Okay, like so. And yes, we have the perfect clearance. We've got about, I don't know, 2-3 mil, maybe 5 mil even. So the only one that's not playing ball is that right hand front one. As you can see, it's a little bit on the skew because actually that mount is on the skew. I realised as I was doing it all. And of course we've got that ridiculous contraption behind it, whatever that is, but we seem to have circumvented that. So next up, when I'm feeling brave enough, which is not right now because the dogs need a walk, is to unhook the engine hoist and see if the body fits. I would like to point out what I'm about to do should not be undertaken in the presence of a responsible adult because they would not allow you to do it. Essentially, once we remove the engine hoist from the equation, all that is holding the engine in place is gravity. Well, not quite. I did find these G-clamps. I only had 2, so there's one at each kind of opposing corners, and hopefully that'll at least hold it in place a little bit. Because what we're going to do is remove the engine hoist and attempt to put the bodywork on top. which in itself will be a little bit of a precarious operation. At this stage, I did consider enlisting some help. But all things considered, the idea of 2 humans, normally the fuck-up factor, I decided to do it on my own. Thus having any chance of injury or fatality. One freestanding motor. Take a good look at it. It might be the last time you see it in that condition. Right, let's lift this on there, see what happens. Notice the body is sitting on 2 inches of wood. And you will see that that gives us just enough room. Just. With some very small air filters. An alternative would be to bring the motor back another 4, maybe 5 inches rearward, which would mean moving the seat back maybe 1 inch or 2. Not impossible. And that would mean all this clobber that's kind of high up on the motor would then be outside of the bodywork. I think I like that idea. And we've always got this to fall back on. In fact, at this point, if we were using this method, then the motor could go forward a couple of inches, honestly. And what would that give us? I don't know. More testicle room. Because let's face it, they're going to need to be as large as possible on the day. So I'm going to investigate air filters. I think I found some already that were pretty flat and do the job. We could always use something like this and devise some kind of manifold off the top that sucks it in down the front there somewhere, like so. So I'm going to reinforce these markings here, which were my original kind of best guess as to where the engine might mount. And then I'm going to take some notes about the 5 inches back and the 2 inches forward aspect. Then we're going to hoist it all up again and chop that exhaust off. There's one other thing that I've noticed. It's come onto the radar, shall we say, while the engine is in situ. And that is the position of this. Yes, the rear sprocket. I mean the front sprocket. It's quite high up, which means the chain's going to be doing something like that. And right now, I have no idea how we're going to get around that. Just doing a little reference on Mr. Furz's machine, and you can tell that obviously these main chassis rails from the front to the rear of the motor are a lot wider apart than they are for the rear axle. So it's got this kind of box section for the motor itself. If we were to add another 4 inches either side, that would give us a total girth of 21 inches. And we could go wider if we wanted to, but that means all this stuff would fit below the chassis line effectively, including our friendly oil filter. And that, and the water pump, and that. There's another problem with that sprocket situation as well. It's bang on. I know the motor's slightly skewed, but it's bang on the 11 inch, i.e. the chassis rounds. Talking of skewy, did you notice the chain on Mr. Furz's machine? It's bent. Yes. So we're going to have to offset the motor to some degree, one way or the other. And I'm favouring this way just because I am. Because I want the chain to come down on the left-hand side of the chassis rail, hopefully. Yes, so near and yet so far. You have to get things into position before you realise that you completely screwed up. Yes, indeed. Where's Captain Kirk when you need him? It's all very illogical. So much for trying to keep it simple with just straight rails front to back. That was never going to happen, was it? Anyway, let's chop that off. We know we've got to do that. Yeah, there. That's that taken care of. Just the rest to sort out. And I'm quite prepared for another exhaust chop up here somewhere. Because we might not be able to flow it under the motor after all. It all rather depends on where we put the motor, how low it is, etc., and ride heights and whatever the hell. Yes, folks, lots of scribbled notes and back to the drawing board. I think that's quite enough disappointment for one episode. Well, it's just fact finding. You got to try these things out, right? So thanks as always for tuning in. Do appreciate your continued interest in the updates in this ridiculousness. Talking of which, if you haven't subscribed already, why not? And it's easy to do down here somewhere. If you thought the video was any good in any way, shape or form, educational, entertaining, give it a thumbs up. And of course, encourage others to watch my lunacy.